Okay, so welcome. And first off, before we start, we just want to acknowledge that we are coming to you from the traditional territories of the Inkle and Syilx people, and we want to also acknowledge our Métis community and their contributions to the Nicola Valley. We're here tonight for a career spotlight with Dylan Richardson. And Dylan's a business professional with a master's degree in business administration, an MBA for short. Dylan was born and raised in Merritt, BC, and attended Merritt Central School, MSS, NVIT, and then did some undergraduate and graduate studies at Trinity Western University. He's had a variety of different jobs along his career path, some in tech and software, manufacturing, financial services, and then he is currently the Assistant Secretary Treasurer for School District 58. So welcome, Dylan.
Hey, good evening. It's great to be here. Thanks for the invite, and definitely excited to be here with you guys today.
Awesome. So we'll just jump right in. And Dylan, if you could just tell us a little bit about your current occupation and the position that you hold with the school district.
Yeah, definitely. So again, thank you for the invitation to share about my experience and my background, and happy to share a little bit about my story and how that might contribute to students that are planning for the next adventures in their life. So as Dave mentioned, my background is in business administration, and I am an alumni of Merritt Secondary School and MVIT. And both these schools provided me with a solid foundation for when I moved to Langley, BC to attend Trinity Western University, where I pursued a undergraduate degree, or Bachelor of Arts degree, and then after that, a master's degree. And I'll get into a little bit more about that in a little bit. But business has a broad set of wings, and that it permits you to work in pretty much any industry that you're interested in. In my career, I spent 10 years working in the software industry as a software support analyst. I spent 4 years working in manufacturing for a sawmill as a divisional accountant, 2 years in the financial planning industry as a financial advisor, and then I am now in my 4th year with the school district as the Assistant Secretary Treasurer. So definitely, I really like business for that fact, is that there's such a broad spectrum in which you can work in. So yeah, my position with the school district is Assistant Secretary Treasurer. And as Dave mentioned, we operate on the traditional and unceded territories of the Inkle and Syilx people. And we have 5 elementary schools, 1 secondary school, and 1 alternate school in Merritt. And we have 2 elementary schools, 1 secondary school, 1 alternate school in Princeton as well. So we work in both 2 communities. And yeah, so that's a little bit about myself. Just a really brief introduction. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more of that as we go along here.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for that, Dylan. So can you just tell us maybe a bit of the duties or responsibilities that you have as the Assistant Secretary Treasurer?
Yeah, definitely. So you might be familiar with the term Chief Financial Officer, which would be a senior executive position in a enterprise or for-profit company. The Chief Financial Officer of a company primary responsibilities for managing the company's finances, of course, including financial planning, management of financial risks, record keeping, and financial reporting. In some sectors, the Chief Financial Officer or CFO is also responsible for the analysis of data. In a not-for-profit setting, which is a school district, that we typically don't refer to that person as the CFO, and that position is widely known as the Secretary Treasurer. And so, and just for clarification, a not-for-profit organization is an organization whose goal is not to generate a profit. So here at the school district, we're not in it to make money. By comparison, Apple or Facebook, they do want to make money. They're a for-profit enterprise. So the CFO or Secretary Treasurer, the two terms can be used interchangeably. The responsibilities are quite the same. It's just how they're referred to in differing organizations. And so, as I mentioned, my position with the school district is Assistant Secretary Treasurer, and while my boss, Victoria, is the Secretary Treasurer. So within a school district, it is very common to have both of these positions, simply because the broad range of responsibilities that the Secretary Treasurer's office oversees. And so some of those examples, and I'm just going to go over a high level list of what they might look like. And so first off would be the preparation and management of the annual budget. And so when we're thinking of the annual budget, we're thinking about, well, how many students are going to attend our schools next year? And how many teachers are we going to need? And so that's an example of how we would prepare a budget. There's a lot more involved in that, but that's just a quick example of what that might look like. Another thing that we look at is the preparation of a capital plan. And so when we're talking about capital planning, we're talking about what kinds of improvements need to be made to our schools, and when do we need to replace our buses? And those are the kinds of questions that we're asking when we're thinking about capital and what is our capital plan for the next 3 to 5 years. Moving on, the preparation of financial statements. And so financial statements are a standard set of documents that are used to tell people such as yourselves how the school district is operating. And so you can get an idea of how we're spending our money and what we're doing. And we're not for profit, and all of our information is public information. And so that information is available to you. So you can look at our financial statements anytime that you want. Another thing is the management of all the grounds and facilities through the district. And so we work closely with the operations manager on this because it's a very large responsibility. But the Secretary Treasurer's responsibility is to make sure that the building and the grounds are kept. And we depend heavily on our operations manager, Daryl Finnegan, for that. And another thing we will look at is the transportation needs of the school district. And when we're thinking about transportation, we're mainly thinking about busing. What kind of busing routes do we have? Do we need to make any changes? And how many buses do we need to operate and service those busing routes? We manage the district's information technology needs. And so this is everything from the devices that students need, that staff need, to the different types of technology that it takes to deliver education, whether it's through software and other technological devices that are used in the administration of the school district. So a fairly broad spectrum, and we work closely with our IT coordinator and our IT lead on that. So definitely a lot of things going on there, but it does reside under the responsibility of the Secretary Treasurer. We also manage health and safety protocols. And so safety is the most important thing for us. We want to keep our students safe while they're attending our schools. We want to keep our staff and safe as well. And so that is something that's important to this position. Management of human resources, and human resources is it's a very large area of business, and you're talking about everything from what an employee might get paid to evaluations to hiring new people, and matters pertaining to the local unions at a very high level. And of course, one of the responsibilities in our office is payroll. And so it's very important to us that we make sure all of our employees are paid correctly and that they're paid on time. We have accounts payable, which is the department that makes sure that all of the bills that the school district has get paid and that they get paid on time and that they get paid accurately. And we also have accounts receivable. And accounts receivable is all about invoicing other stakeholder groups that owe the district money and staying on top of those receivables. Another large area under our responsibility is purchasing. And so essentially we're overseeing all of the purchases that need to be made throughout the school district each year. And so as you can imagine, there's a lot of time goes into that. And then we also have board governance. And so As you may be aware, every 4 years we elect trustees. So we have 3 trustees in Princeton. We have 3 trustees that are elected in merit, and we have 1 rural trustee that is also elected as well for the TNRD region. And so the Secretary Treasurer works very closely with the board as the board sets policy and makes decisions. And the Secretary Treasurer is the legal secretary or the corporate officer for the school district. So that person is responsible for signing off on anything legal pertaining to the school district. And that leads into risk management, which is another very important topic as well, is that the Secretary Treasurer is responsible for measuring and assessing and mitigating risk to the school district. And so that, when we think of risk management, one example is the privacy and protection of information. We want to keep our information regarding our students private, our employees, and all of our stakeholder groups. And so it's a very important part of what we do. And then, of course, one of the other areas is the supervision of staff, is that the Secretary Treasurer cannot do all of these tasks by themselves. There is a large team of employees that work. And just to give you a quick number, would be in the neighborhood of, just in the operations side alone, you're upwards of 100 people, and to make all this work. So you can imagine that there's a lot of things going on. And so the 2 positions, Assistant Secretary Treasurer and Secretary Treasurer, become quite important in getting all of this work done. To be specific to my position, basically the way it works with School District 58 is, with my role as the Assistant Secretary Treasurer, I really spend the bulk of my time on the day-to-day operations of the school district. So I am talking with school district principals and secretaries on a weekly basis. I'm talking with various stakeholder groups in our communities that are conducting business with the school district. I'm working with the staff inside the school district and the staff that report to me to get the work done and to make sure that everything is on time and is accurate. And by comparison, my boss, who's the Secretary Treasurer, she is working on higher level things. She's looking at the budget as a whole and how are we doing throughout the year. And she's looking at the capital plan that I was talking about earlier. And she's meeting with other stakeholder groups and so on and so forth. So that's a little bit about what the responsibilities are with regards to my job, but more specifically, the responsibilities that are tied to the Secretary Treasurer position.
Yeah, so definitely, like just a wide array of things to stay on top of in your line of work. Definitely, contrary to popular belief, you're not just working in your office crunching numbers alone. You're definitely working as an integral part of a team. So I'm going to nix that part of my question, which was, do you work alone or part of a team? I think it's very evident that you are part of a team. But can you give us an idea of what your workplace or work environment looks like on a daily basis?
Yeah, definitely. So I do work in an office environment, and known as the board office. And I also have my home office that I work at as well. I work with about 20 other people in the board office. There's probably a little bit more than that, but 20 is a good round number. As you can imagine, we are all journeying through the effects of the flooding natural disaster. And unfortunately, that had a very significant impact on the school board office. And so we are not in the school board office. And so we are set up at the former Brambles Bakery. And so yeah, we're working there. As a member of the executive management team, I do spend a lot of time meeting with various stakeholder groups and communities. And so these meetings, and with the pandemic and with this flood, these meetings usually took place in person. So there would be a lot of travel involved. But since the pandemic started, we do a lot of these meetings on Zoom. And so it really does cut down on a lot of the travel, and it allows us to stay in the office more, which we like as well.
So can you elaborate a little bit more on sort of what a typical day or week at work might look like for you?
Yeah. Um, so so school district office, I often say this to people, when you drive by the board office, I mean, there's not all these students running around and hustle and bustle. It looks very quiet. In fact, it probably looks quieter than a library. But I want to let you know that it is a very fast-paced environment. And often you are juggling a few things at a time, and the district's priorities can change in a second. It could be an emergency that comes up with regards to a student. It could be something with regards to a school. It could be more of a macro factor with the ministry. And so there's all kinds of things that can change the priorities. And so, but at any given time, you are juggling a handful of priorities that you need to be working on. Weekly management meetings are important to us. So we do meet as a management team to discuss what our individual priorities are, but what are our priorities as a board office and as we collectively work together to accomplish this great work. We prepare. One of the most important things that we do on a weekly basis is we're always preparing for our monthly board meetings. So our board of trustees meet once per month. And there's a lot of work that goes into each of those board meetings because, as you can imagine, there are several agenda items that need to be discussed, and the trustees need to make some important decisions. And so, as a management team, we work collectively with our employee group to prepare for and provide our trustees with the best information so that they can set policy that is going to fuel the success for all learners in our school district. One thing that I do on a weekly basis is that I'm reviewing and signing off on payroll. And so we have in the neighborhood of 600 employees, and so our payroll person is quite a busy person. And so we are always working on things that are payroll related. And so as an assistant secretary treasurer, it's important to review and sign off on that important work as well. Also, I look at a weekly basis at the purchases that the school district needs to make. And so I review those purchases and make sure that they're signed off by the proper supervisors. For example, if a school is making a purchase, I want to make sure that the principal has reviewed it and signed off on it. And then I want to make sure that that expense is coded to the correct GL account so that it shows up properly on the financial statements. I also meet with other staff members to support them in the important work that they are doing. And just sometimes they just need a lending ear to work through something that's tripping them up. And other times I'm lending them a hand to see how I can be of assistance to them. And so that's real important as well. I meet with the school administration on quite a regular basis. And so I work very closely with the school secretaries and also the principals. And so I'm really helping them with matters pertaining to finance and accounting. And so just whatever assistance that they are looking for and whatever kind of supports that I can give them at the school level, I'm happy to do that. I mean, one big thing that I'm working on is we're working on the after effects of the flooding events. And so with the flooding activity that we've had, 3 of our schools have been significantly affected, and our board office has been significantly affected, and hundreds of our students are having to be relocated. And so that is a huge part of my job, but not only my job, but everybody across the district has their hand in this and making this work. But that's definitely something that we're working on a regular basis. I work specifically with the insurance adjusters and officials from the Ministry of Education, and really just managing the flood efforts at that level, just making sure that we're on task and on pace with the expectations that the ministry has and the insurance adjusters have for us. I also help budget managers. So as you can imagine with a school district, there's a lot of money that gets spent on the delivery of educational services. And so I do work with decision makers and budget managers across the district Sometimes it's just helping them, how should they be spending that money, or coming up with some strategies on what they should be doing. I do work with our accounts receivable, where I'm sending out regular invoices to stakeholder groups in our communities, just sending them bills for the services that we provide for them and that they owe us money for. I also participate in the budget and capital planning processes. And so it's a very large part of what we do is we're not only trying to work through the year that we're already in, but believe it or not, we're already starting to think about what is the spending going to look like and what are we going to need next year. And with our capital planning, we plan 3 to 5 years out, and we're trying to forecast what are we going to need in 5 years. Are we going to need to replace a bus? Are we going to need vehicles? Do we need to replace some flooring at one of our schools? And so those are conversations that we're always having. I oversee all of the school district's accounting functions. So if you are familiar or you've taken an accounting class at high school, you might be familiar with journal entries or year-end work, or you may have heard the term external auditors. And so I work very closely with these processes. And also, one of my favorite things is I meet one-on-one with my staff. Such an important part of what I do is my staff, and I appreciate the hard work that they do each day, because I could not do my job if they weren't doing theirs. And so I'm always very happy to provide assistance to them. So I'd say that's a pretty good look at what a typical week might look like with my role with the school district.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And as I'll echo kind of what Jennifer said, and just a lot of different things going on, it seems like, at the same time. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff. Could you just kind of take us into some things that you like about your work, and then what some of the things you find that are challenging?
Good. That's a good question. There are a lot of things about my job that are consistent. It is nice to have routines, and it is nice to have things that are you see them coming, and I do, when you've had a busy week or you're feeling a little bit overloaded, sometimes it's nice to focus on something that's consistent and that you do month in and month out. And so for me, I'm on the accounting side of things, that's processing month end, or that's working on year end, and something that I do every single month. And so I do enjoy that. But also I enjoy that there are no 2 weeks that are exactly the same. I have been with School District 58 for 3 years, and every week is different. There's some things that are the same, but there are many things that are different. And from one school year to the next is completely different as well. And so I love the fact that I'm never bored. I have never once said that I am bored at SD 58, and it keeps me on my toes. And I really like that part of it. I like the dynamic part of the Secretary Treasurer's office, and that you are constantly looking at a different part of the district. It's not the same thing over and over and over and over again. But with that, I would say the most challenging part of my job is learning how to prioritize my work. And specifically, how do I prioritize my work when I have too much work to get done and I don't have enough time? And because the perfectionist in me, I want to get it all done. I want all the work done. But I've been here 3 years now, and I realized that the reality is that you aren't going to get it all done. And so you need to decide, what are you going to work on today? And what are you going to leave for tomorrow? And then sometimes within the context of a day, you got to think, okay, what am I going to work on next? Because if I try and think about everything, I am just going to get majorly overwhelmed and possibly discouraged. And so I think that would be the most challenging part, is just learning, and it's a learning process. I don't know if it's something that you ever fully figure out, but you just get a little bit better each week with learning how to prioritize. And sometimes that means letting go of what I want to do and embracing what needs to be done. And that can be frustrating, because I'm a lot more comfortable when I'm working on things that I want to work on. But that can just further perpetuate the feeling of being overwhelmed. And sometimes you need to stop working on what you want because it's your pet project, and you need to work on what's best for the district and what needs to be done. And that is definitely attention to be managed, and something that I work hard at each day and each week to maintain. But certainly I would say that's the most challenging part.
Yeah, and great answer. Thank you. So can you maybe just share one of your most memorable experiences that you've had, either from this job or even a previous job, something that's really stuck with you on your career journey?
Yeah, I gave this question some thought, and I've been in the workforce now for a few years. If I say how many, then you'll know how old I am. But having worked in education and manufacturing, financial planning, and software, there's just so many things to think about. But I kept coming back to the most memorable experiences of my career are not necessarily the things that I've done, but it's been the people that I've been on the journey with. And I mean, the work is the work, and the work is important, and you need to love your work. But I tell you, the people that I've worked with is just as important as the work that I'm doing. And the work relationships that I have formed over the years have been a far more memorable experience than the actual work that I've done. I mean, I can look back on my different career opportunities, and I can certainly come up with a few accomplishments that I'm proud of, and also some hard lessons that I've learned. But it's the relationships that I formed that have been the lasting impact. And when I look back on it, I'm thinking about those people, and I miss them, and I look forward to when I can connect with them again. And so I would definitely say it's the relationships.
Yeah, definitely relationships make a difference to your enjoyment of the work you're doing. I can totally relate to that. Can you explain what pathway you took to get to your current position? So including like educational experiences and work experiences. And did you know this is what you'd want to do when you were in high school?
Yeah, definitely. The field of business can be equally exciting and intimidating, is what I often tell people when I'm talking about business and people that are thinking about getting into it. It's very exciting because the options are limitless. There's just so many things that you can do, but it's also intimidating because there is a level of uncertainty that can present itself at times, whether you're pursuing your undergrad degree and you're trying to figure out what am I going to do after, or you could be in a career job and you're thinking about what's next, or you're studying the economics and you're like, oh man, for example, I worked at Tolco and the plant shut down, and there's nothing I could do about that, and so these are some of the uncertainties that come with it, but it's also exciting too. For myself, I started out with a high school education, like many of us. I actually had a 2-year gap after I graduated from high school. If I go back to my high school years, I actually wanted to become an airline pilot when I was in high school, but I couldn't get the medical clearance. I can't hear it on one of my ears. And so I actually couldn't pursue aviation as a career. And so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I got out of high school and worked a few jobs, and then I just stumbled on and I learned about this business program that was being offered at the Nicola Valley Institute of Technology, or NVIT, and it sparked my curiosity. I honestly didn't know where it was going, but I was curious. And so I ended up completing a 2-year business diploma at NVIT. And after that, I knew that I wanted to pursue business. And so then I transferred to Trinity Western University in Langley, and I completed my Bachelor of Arts. And after I received my Bachelor of Arts degree, I got an admin position at the software company that I was telling you about. And that eventually led into me becoming the controller of the company. And controller is just another title that is kind of a management title where you're looking after some of the same things that I'd be looking at as a secretary treasurer. And then I decided that I wanted to pursue my master's degree in business. And so I enrolled in the MBA program. And after that, I completed that program, and the opportunity came up at Tolko to become a divisional accountant at a sawmill. And before that, I really didn't know a lot about sawmills. I mean, I knew a logging truck drove in and lumber came out, but I really didn't know a lot about the process in between. And so I was on a 4-year journey that was pretty exciting to see how all that works, and then also to see how it all works from a financial perspective. But after 4 years, Tolko did shut down the plant here in Merritt, and so I actually transitioned into exploring my curiosity with financial planning, something I've always kind of been interested in. And so I became a financial advisor. And I love working with the people and providing financial advice. But what I didn't like is, for me, it was just a little too sales oriented. And I just know for myself, I've never been a good salesman. It's just not my thing. People that are good at sales are just amazing. They're amazing people and they do incredible things, but that just wasn't me. And so it just wasn't a good fit for me. And then I transitioned into the position here at SD58 as the Assistant Secretary Treasurer. And I'm currently working towards my professional accounting designation, or otherwise known as Chartered Professional Accountant. So here I am all these years later, and the learning never stops, and the curiosity never stops. And it's what I love about business. It's curious, and so there's always an adventure somewhere. So yeah, I'm definitely happy to be on the journey. You asked if I knew this is what I wanted to do in high school. I would say absolutely not. Full disclosure, I struggled academically in high school. I really had a tough time with high school. I actually didn't want to return to schooling after high school, and I just wanted a high-paying job right out of high school. But that high-paying job never came my way. But when I decided to go to NVIT, I developed my study skills, and I learned that I could excel academically. And I guess you could say I was a bit of a late bloomer in that regard. But I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my curiosity in business, even though I had discovered this and I knew it's what I wanted to do. But I didn't have this picture of being a assistant secretary treasurer or a financial advisor. Like, I wouldn't even known what those were back then. Even when I graduated with my bachelor's degree at Trinity Western, I couldn't have predicted the career path that I've just told you about. I stressed about it. I remember being in my 3rd year and starting to worry about, like, oh man, what am I going to do? And then I finally graduated, and I still didn't know what I was going to do. And then, I don't know, things just fell into place, and and the rest is history. And you kind of look back and you're like, oh, why did I worry so much? And so one thing that I did know when I started on this curiosity that I had for business is that I knew that I didn't want to be this, like, I'm going to work for TELUS Corporation or Apple for my whole career. my goals were different. I wanted to have a diversified experience. And what I mean by that is I wanted to explore different areas of business. And that's one thing that I'm really happy about is that, the story that I'm telling you is, I've got to check out and explore many different industries. And I'm quite happy to say education is an amazing industry and I'm very happy to be a part of it. And I definitely could see myself being here on more of a long-term basis. But yeah, that's probably a little bit about, what it was like coming out of high school and trying to figure that piece out.
That's a really great message. Thanks for sharing it, because I know there's so many students out there that say, but I don't really know if I'm going to like it. So I'm a bit scared to try it, but I'm sort of the philosophy that try it and you'll learn things about yourself. And it sounds like that's sort of what you did with your education and with your work experiences. And look where it's gotten you to today. It's great. It's really great to hear. Can you give us an idea of what some other career options are available for people in your field?
Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned, the field of business has such a broad wingspan. It, you can bring up really any industry, and there's a business professional in there somewhere. Facebook. Somebody in Facebook has a business degree and is working at Facebook. Somebody at the Royal Inland Hospital has a business degree and is working there doing something. And and so really any industry you can think of, there is room for a business professional. But specific careers, to highlight probably some key areas in business, I would say, well, first, finance and accounting. That's obviously my background. And even in the area of finance, I mean, there are so many rabbit trails that go down, a school district, you know, maybe you run your own business, there's so many different things, but finance and accounting is definitely one area. Human resources is a very large area of business. And as I mentioned, you're dealing with everything from contracts to employees' pay and their compensation, their benefits. You're recruiting new people for the company that you're working for. You're helping people move on that are moving on to new companies and new adventures. So definitely a very important field is human resources. Sales and marketing. Again, many different areas that you can get into. Marketing is, there's definitely an artistic part of it. You might think of rebranding and logos and designing advertisements, and certainly there is that aspect of it. But marketing is also about trying to find out what is it that people want to buy, and then finding products or services to align with the buyers, and understanding the sociology that's a part of that, and being able to match a buyer with a product or service that they want. That's some powerful marketing. And so if you're interested in that kind of thing, there's just huge opportunities in the area of marketing. Entrepreneurship is a huge area as well. And the Canadian economy, I don't have an updated statistic, but I would say 10, 15 years ago, 65% of our gross domestic product is a result of entrepreneurs. It's a result of people that have decided to open their own business and do something for themselves because they want to be their own boss, or they have a product or service that they believe in, and they want to sell it and they want to develop it. And so that is a huge part of what we do here in Canada is entrepreneurship. And so it's certainly an area of business. Teaching is another area, whether it could be at the secondary level, where you're taking business education in grade 10, and other subjects throughout the high school curriculum, but also teaching at the university level. Because if you move on and you go into a business program, there's going to be some business professors that you're working with, and they've been in the field of business as well, and so there's certainly teaching opportunities as well. Consulting is another area. As a business professional, is maybe you don't want to work for one company, but you may want to have a contract with several companies where you're helping them do something that they need your help and expertise with, and that can be pretty exciting as well. Manufacturing is a big one as well. Lots of opportunities in the area of manufacturing, and then of course research and development is definitely an area. So I would say those are like some really high level topics of business, and that might trigger your interest. But there's just so many different jobs and so many industries to speak of, but I'd say those are a few.
Sorry, I was just on mute there. Dylan, thank you for sharing all those, and like you said, just so many opportunities for people, and I just really neat how you're able to lay that out. So much appreciated. What does the future look like for your profession? So, is there going to be a high demand for people, with an MBA with those types of skills and experience? And then, is technology or societal changes going to have a big impact on the future of business professionals?
The area of finance and accounting, there will definitely, of course I'm biased because it's where I work, but I just hear stories and I hear there's just so many jobs out there. I'm on the social media networks like LinkedIn and other networks, and I'm always getting emails like, oh, looking for business professional to do this. And, it's definitely, there is a high demand for skills in finance and accounting. And that really is across any industry. And so if you are remotely interested in finance and accounting, I have every belief that you will find a job that in an industry that you like. And so there's definitely room for that. The two main credentials I would say in that area is the MBA, or Master's Degree in Business Administration. And then you have the Chartered Professional Accounting Designation, CPA. Both credentials have their own, I guess, pros. I have my MBA, and as I mentioned before, I am working on my CPA designation. They're two very important degrees. I wouldn't say one is more important than the other, but they are important. And if finance and accounting is an area that you think you're going to spend a great deal of your career, the likelihood of you pursuing one of them is probably quite high. School districts specifically, they're very integral part of our educational system. And so I don't see any signs of any changes coming soon. I think, we've been doing this for, decades, for centuries. And so, I of course see it getting better in terms of how we do the business, but the job and the work is going to be there. And, I'm seeing a lot of secretary treasurers that are reaching an age where they want to move into retirement or semi-retirement. And there's certainly lots of opportunities out there specifically for school districts. I think technology is shifting all the time, and it's going to continually fuel how school districts evolve, and also societal changes. As policies get made at the board governance level, at the political tables, and it's gonna shape what we do and how we do it. And so I definitely, I would expect that 20 years from now, the way we deliver education is not going to look the exact same today. I would like to think it's going to be better. But I do see the work being there, and we are going to need people in the field of business. And that's just not in the area of school districts, but it really is everywhere.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. How about if I'm a student and I'm kind of thinking about my own what I like and dislike and my own personal attributes, what are some things that you think align nicely with somebody that was looking to pursue an MBA or get into the world of business? What skills and interests should they possess?
Yeah, to name a few. I mean, there's obvious things like that we look at, it's like honesty, integrity, those things but I assume those things. Some of the things that I think about is just having a curiosity. And because I've mentioned for myself, the field of business started off, it was a point of curiosity for me, and I didn't know what I was really getting myself into, but here I am years later, telling my story of what I've done since then. And so I'd say, just be curious and have that desire to just explore. Being detail oriented, I think, is an important attribute to the work that we do as business professionals. Is we want to, we don't want to rush over things. We want to pay attention to what we're doing and be thorough, be methodical, be accurate. I mean, mistakes are going to get made, but we want to minimize those as best that we can. I think one of the most important things is being teachable and being willing to learn. If you are those two things, I can't think of a job that you won't succeed at. If you have a willingness to learn and somebody can show you how to do something, I truly believe you'll be successful at whatever it is that you put your mind to. Another couple of things is if you are just remotely intentional about being kind and respectful towards people, you're gonna tearing heads. People are gonna notice you. Because when you are kind and respectful, people respond well to that, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the learning and the teachable. Because if you're kind to somebody and you're respectful to them, towards them, they want to work with you, and they want to show you stuff, and they want to teach you stuff. And also, I'd say committed to doing your best. As humans, we're not perfect, and we never will be perfect. But just showing up every day and being willing to give it your all and to do your best. I mean, if you're doing your best, I mean, what more can you ask for? And so I would definitely say that. And I'd say just being dependable by showing up to work each day and being a strong contributor to your team.
Yeah, great advice. I really think a lot of those things, those last few things you said, dependability, teachable, willing to learn, all those kind of things are really applicable to not only business, but any field that you choose to go into today. I think those are going to take you a long way. Just wondering, is there anything that a high school student could be doing right now to help them prepare for a career in business?
Absolutely. And you may not want to hear this, but I would definitely say lean into, if you're a student that's interested, lean into and put that extra effort into those group projects that your teachers are assigning to you. And I know I have been in group projects in high school, in university, and even in my professional developing career. Group work is not easy. It's hard work. But the truth is you're going to be working in group environments for the rest of your life. And so I would lean into that. I just think it's a great opportunity at the secondary level to engage into that group work and just start to learn how to engage in that. Go the extra mile. whether it's a presentation that your teachers are asking you to put together. In today's day and age, we pretty much all know how to put together a PowerPoint presentation, but having a presentation that stands out, that will go a long ways. And what I mean by that is, in the business setting, you may spend 80 hours putting together this amazing presentation that maybe is like 40 slides long. And you may show up to the meeting and the chair of the meeting say, you know what, Dylan, I'm sorry, but you've got 2.5 minutes to say what you got to say. And so there's something to be said for less is more, rather than fluffing things up and trying to make it as long as possible. So having a presentation that stands out definitely is something that I recommend. And I would say the last thing I would say is learn to have a little fun. I think I know I was, and I probably still am. I take things too seriously, but work is work. But you have to learn how to have a little bit of fun in the process, and it can really shape the outlook of your team. And I need to remind myself of this even in my job right now, because it's so easy to get sucked into all the work that needs to get done. But we do need to remember that we're working in group environments, we're working on teams, and we need to have a little bit of fun in the process.
That's great to hear. Great to hear that accountants have fun, because they often get a bad rap for being boring.
Yeah.
So do you have any suggestions for students who'd like to explore your line of work in more detail?
Yes. I would say if you are the least bit interested in the field of business, don't feel this pressure that you have to figure it all out before you graduate. It's a lot to take in. I think just knowing that you're curious about it is a good start. Get yourself into post-secondary and chase down that business degree. And there's so many ways to complete a business degree. Like I said, there's so many fields to study, but don't even worry so much about that. Just show up, just get there. And as you do one course at a time, you will figure it out. You may not figure it out till you're in your 3rd or 4th year of university, and that is totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Another thing that I would say is contact a post-secondary institution that you are interested in and find out if they have any career fairs that, or that are for prospective business students. And sometimes that can be a nice way to get a little bit of an insight of what is it like to be on that campus, and how do you like it, and some of the courses that are being offered there. It's definitely insightful. Also, I just throw out an invite. If you ever want to drop by the Brambles board office, I'd be happy to chat with anybody that's interested at any time. So I'm always happy to do that.
Awesome. Thanks so much. That's a great invite, and a nice segue into our last part of our meeting, which I'm going to hand over to Dave.
Yeah, first, I'm just wondering if you're going to do any baking while you're there, Dylan.
Everything is there to do it, and I haven't done any baking, but I will say that I am slowly adding barista to my title, and so because the coffee machine's there. And so every day I make an espresso, so I'm quite pleased about that.
Yeah. Just our final question for you here. Do you have? Can you provide any just other advice for young people as they're out there, maybe watching this down the road, considering possible career choices?
Yeah. The fact that you're watching a video like this, I think that is already an amazing thing. It just means you're connected to a network of people that care about what you're going to do with the rest of your life. And it also means that you're really trying to figure it out too. And so I would say, number one, relax. Don't stress. And another thing, you have a school counselor and you also have teachers that care about you, talk to them because they care so much for you and they want nothing but success for you. So sometimes that can be intimidating. Sometimes it means trying to find out when you can do that. But I definitely would challenge you to do it because I believe you'll find that it's worth your while to do that. I would also say if you talk to 20 different people about what you should do, you might get 20 different answers, and that can be pretty stressful. And so I would recommend having a small group of people that you trust and seek their input rather than going for the popular opinion or, listening to what everybody has to say, whether it's a teacher that you trust or a parent or an aunt or an uncle or an older sibling, seek out those people and listen to what they have to say. I'd also say, do you. You may look around and if you're graduating, maybe it seems like everybody else has it figured out. And the thing is some students talk about their plans while others keep it to themselves. And if you're one of those students that keeps it to yourself, it might stress you out to hear that everyone else seems to be having it all figured out. And I would say just let that go and take a deep breath. I was one of those students that I would not talk about what I was thinking, but I heard all kinds of other plans that others had. And, of course, I thought that was amazing. But, and then you start to think about yourself. But I just wasn't a talker. On a very personal note, my daughter recently graduated from high school. She, in her graduation year, got accepted into the School of Nursing. But let me tell you, within 1 week of her freshman year, she learned that she did not like nursing at all. And she switched to the field of business. She is currently in her 3rd year of business. And now she's wondering if she wants to be a teacher, And so it's a process. And the only way you're going to figure it out is by taking the next step.
Yeah, really great points of advice, Dylan. So again, thank you so much. I just want to open it up really quickly. I know we have a few people that have joined us tonight. If there is any questions, feel free again to either add them to the chat or you're welcome to unmute your mic and ask away.
I thought of one thing to ask you about, Dylan, and it's you're also part of your job is when the students, the grade 12s, apply for their scholarships and bursaries through the district, and then they're awarded them at the grad ceremony. You're the person that sort of they have to go back to ask for their money to redeem their scholarship voucher, correct?
Yes, that's true. I'm surprised that I actually didn't reference that because it is one of my favorite things to do. I love hearing from the graduating class and hearing about the awards that they have worked so hard to earn. And it's certainly a joy to work with them to redeem those awards and watch them take their next steps. So yeah, I certainly work with the awards and scholarships in both Merritt and Princeton.
Well, hopefully, Dylan, you'll be hearing from lots of our graduating class this year with awards and bursaries that they're again going to be earning. So again, just one last time, wanted to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was really nice to hear how obviously you were prepared for this and could share so much about the different things that you do. So we really appreciate your time and the effort that you put into this. So once again, thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thanks for the invite.
Okay.
Thanks for everything, Dylan.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.